Thank you. Let's just take a deep breath as we reflect on this last year of 2017. And since this is the last day of 2017, our thoughts naturally turn to the passage of time. We think about old friends and relatives, perhaps that are no longer with us. We may have feelings of nostalgia. We may wonder where this year went, how fast time seems to be moving. And I've named this talk Auld Lang Syne because that song actually speaks to the passage of time. Auld Lang Syne means days gone by or long, long ago. So I know we hear that song probably every New Year's Eve, and you're probably like, what are the words and what does that mean? And it was written in 1788 as a poem by Robert Burns, and I'm just going to share with you a few lines of that. Should old acquaintances be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and Auld Lang Syne, days gone by? We too have run about the slopes and parked and picked the daisies fine, but we've wandered many a weary foot since long time. We have paddled in the stream from morning sun till dawn, but seas have between us broad have roared since Auld Lang Syne. So again, you kind of get this feeling of this movement of time. You get this movement of people separating and not seeing each other anymore. And particularly when this was written before Facebook, when you didn't see people, you didn't see people. You didn't really know what happened to them. Now it's pretty easy to find people and figure out what happened to them. And one of the other lines, and there's a hand, my trusty friend, and give me a hand of thine, and we'll take a right goodwill draught for Auld Lang Syne. So it's kind of a drinking song as well, which is also part of the whole New Year's Eve celebration, isn't it? So when I was a kid on WGN TV, there was always, on New Year's Eve, they would always have a countdown. And there would always be this guy dressed as old man time. And he had a long white beard and a big scythe, and he'd be wearing a robe, and he'd come out like every hour and go, well, it's almost time for me to go, and it's time for me to say goodbye, so the baby could come in. And it'd be like, and then it would build until the 10 minutes before, and then he would die, and then this baby would come in. Somebody dressed with the new year would come in a diaper. And every year I felt so sorry for that old man who would die every year. And yet, again, it's that passage of time. It's Father time. It's like we're saying goodbye to a year. And are we not happy to say goodbye to 2017? I don't know about you. So we're here to mark the end officially of 2017 with our annual Burning Bowl ritual. If this is your first Burning Bowl ritual, basically what we do is we write down those things that we want to release and let go of that perhaps are blocking our good and our growth for stepping into 2018 so we can step in clean, yeah? Now, we're also going to do a collective burning for all the things that have happened in the world this last year, which are monumental, and I'm going to review those a little for you. And I thought, when I was writing the talk and I was looking over 2017, I thought, I really don't want to bring all this out for you because I'll depress you like crazy. But I figured if we do something with it, then that's different. So I'm going to bring it out, and we're going to burn it, and we're going to make noise, You know how New Year's Eve we always make noise, and like at a Jewish wedding, they stomp on the glass, and at some like Greek weddings they break the plates. And part of the reason for doing that is you make a lot of noise, and it's like it's said that you send the evil spirits flying. And we may in Unity not believe in evil spirits, but we sure would like to send kind of some of the past, just clear the way. So we're going to do that collectively at the end of our burning bowl, to just kind of send 2017 out once and for all. So you have very small sheets of paper, and I know you're thinking, hey, I got a lot to burn this year. Are you kidding me? You're giving me a paper this big? And obviously part of the reason we're doing that is because it pollutes the air, and so, we want to be mindful of that. So when we get to that part, and we're not doing it right now, but when we get to that part, if you could just write small, and also just write one word that symbolizes all those things that you want to release and let go of. Spirit knows, the universe knows what it is you're trying to release. So one of the reasons that we burn it, instead of just tearing it up or doing something else, is that fire literally transforms energy from one form to another. And it's important, I think, that when you come up to a burning bowl, we have 2 over here and 2 back there, that you watch it. Because there's something very powerful about something that you've written down, and you're releasing it and you're letting it go and you're watching it transform. So together we are here to transform and release the lessons that we need to let go of from last year. So I'm going to ask you to reflect a little bit on your life. So for instance, and you don't have to answer any of these, just think about it. How are you different than you were last year? Hopefully we're all a little different, but how are you different? Are you stronger? Are you weaker? Are you richer? Are you poorer? Did you end a relationship or start a relationship, sustain a relationship? And is there anybody who is not with you this year, who left, who made their transition this year? Is there anyone who is not here with you? And I think it's important that, again, we mark these moments, because time has a way of just getting away from us, and we have to stop and we have to reflect. So if you have lost anyone this year, I want you just to stop and hold that person in your heart. Because it's a big deal to step into a new year and know that they're not going to be with us. And so we also recognize that life never ends, but merely transmutes. And so we bless our loved ones who have made their transitions in 2017. And we know that in 2018, our prayer is that they will live as an angel on our shoulders. That they will send us all manner of good as we bless them on their journey in life, and they are free. So our prayer is that our eyes and ears may be open to hearing and seeing them in a non-physical way. Amen. So at the beginning of this year, for those of you who were here, we had a white stone ceremony, and we're having one next week. And at that ceremony, we ask you to come up with one word and write that on a stone, put it on your altar, carry it in your pocket so that it can become like a rudder for the rest of the year. So you have something that you can bounce off of and look at that. And perhaps you weren't here for the white stone and you didn't write a word, but you probably had an intention for this year, did you not? You probably had a goal. You had something that you were moving toward. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how did you do? Maybe you did great and you're a 10. Maybe you forgot what your word was and it's a 1, And probably like most of us, I think I came in around a 5 or a 6. I took a step toward what it was I was seeking to manifest, and recognizing that it's a theme. And probably when you look at your word, it's probably a theme in your life that you need to move forward. And Diane will walk you through that next week. But again, in reviewing this year, did you make any new friends? Did somebody new step into your life that you hadn't expected to be there, that you found a new, how sometimes you meet somebody and go, yeah, I know you. How did I not know you before? And on the other hand, has there been people who you are no longer friends with that you've had to release? So as we move into the burning, the question is, if you want to move forward, we have the power of zeal in moving forward. We talked about that in the Christmas story, right? That there's this process of a death impulse and a life impulse. And so in order to move in the life impulse, what is it that you need to let go of? Is there anything that drains you? Is there anything that's holding you back or sucking the life out of you? So you're like, I can't move forward with this. So what is it that you need to release? So there is great power in releasing. And the truth is, if we don't let go of the past, then we can get stuck and we can't move. And it can be hard sometimes, especially if there was trauma or death that we don't want to move forward. But our life force, again, is calling us forward. And it's like the story of Lot's wife, right? I mean, when Lot and his family were fleeing Sodom and Gomorrah, what did God say? God said, don't look back. You know, you're going to hear all kinds of stuff, but whatever you do, don't look back. And so as they're running away, they're hearing all this destruction behind them, and what does Lot's wife do? But she turns around, she looks back, and she turns into a pillar of salt, right? And as we continually look back, we crystallize, and we can't move forward. We can't grow because we're stuck. What is it? There's a saying that says you can look back, but you can't stare, right? So this is a process of releasing, so we don't crystallize, so we don't turn into a pillar of salt, and so we don't stare, so that we can, again, move forward. So 2017 is a year that needs to be released, as there were so many things that happened that it could make your head spin. And I just kind of wanted to go through a few of the, not a few, there's a lot, but a few of the things that happened this year. And again, we're going to burn those, but I wanted to bring it up. So the Women's March at the beginning of January that happened not just in Washington, but it happened all over the country and all over the world. We've had this Russian investigation that's been going on for like almost a year, it seems. The tensions with North Korea and the threat of nuclear war has come back again. It's like, did we not already do this back in the 60s in the Cold War? But, you know, we're living under this threat. The Me Too movement, which has just popped up in the last couple of months, which is exposing all kinds of sexual harassment, and we're seeing these, you know, like Harvey Weinstein and Matt Lauer and Charlie Rose. It's just like boom, 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 you know, all this is happening. The Black Lives Matter movement, which also took root this year and gained momentum again. We've had the massacres in Las Vegas and Texas. In fact, one of our members here was in Las Vegas when that happened. On the good side, we had a great solar eclipse, everybody. There was a solar eclipse. It was great. It was wonderful. Terrorist attacks in London at the Ariana Grande concert. I think that's how you say her name. In Spain, in Sweden, it goes on and on. We have an opioid epidemic. We had devastating hurricanes in Texas, in Florida, in the Caribbean, and in Puerto Rico. The fires in California. You know, when you see it written down like this, it can be overwhelming. And I think we're going to look back on this year and go, how in the world did we get through that? Right? How in the world? It's, for those of us who are older, it's kind of like living through 1968, right? When I look back at 68 and go, how did we live through 1968, you know, with the assassinations of Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy and the war and all the stuff that was happening back then. But the truth is, if we also step back and we can look and see if there's any patterns that are appearing. And there are patterns. So if we look at the January, the Women's March, and then the Me Too movement, we're seeing a rise in feminism, aren't we? We're seeing a rise in women's power, in that. When the Black Lives Matter, we're seeing a rise in like, hey, what the heck is going on here? We need to change things. I think we're seeing an opportunity to take an honest look at our history. Like, why do we have statues to these people? You know, why are we not taking them down? And they're beginning to come down because we're taking an honest look at our past. So there is changes that are happening, and as things sometimes appear worse and more violent, and it feels like we're taking steps back, I think also in some ways it's like lancing a boil, right? And we got a lot of boils that need to be lanced, that need to be cleared, that need to be changed so we can step into this. So part of what we're doing here again is clearing the way so that we can collectively just send all the negativity and all the things that have been holding us back, just get rid of it and clear it. T.S. Eliot said, "For last year's words belong to last year's language, and next year's words await another voice. And to make an end is to make a beginning." So what we're doing here today is we're letting last year's words belong to last year's language, and we are awaiting a new voice, which can come in 2018. So before I stop this part of the talk so that we can have a song to lead us into meditation and burning, again, what I want you to think about is what's holding you back? Individually, what is holding you back? And after we do the burning, we'll have a whole week to reflect on what lies next for you. You have a whole week to think about that. For me, I really think it's important that all of us, and I've said this a lot, I know, over the last month, that it's really important for each of us to have a spiritual practice or a way of spiritually renewing ourselves. And for everyone, that's going to be different. But because we are living in such challenging times, we need to find something that feeds us, something that nurtures us. And I'm going to be gone for the next 2 weeks, and I'm going back to the Shivananda ashram where I used to be on staff. And I can no longer stand on my head or do it's going to be quite a challenge. I was 27 when I was there last time. I was a lot more limber. But I know for me, for my spiritual renewal, for my spiritual practice in order to do the work that needs to be done, that's one of the things that I'm committing to be able to work, right? To show up. And so I'm asking you, as we go through this process in the next couple of weeks, to think about what is that spiritual renewal for you that's unique to you. So that said, let's have our song that leads us into meditation. Before I stop, does anybody need paper or a pen? Paper and a pen, and if you could keep your hand up, and the ushers will come around and find you.